the amateur scene for me was really great. I won tons and tons and tons of national championships as an amateur, and I was a part of the RM Suzuki team for pretty much my whole career from the time I was 9 until I turned pro.
What is going on, everybody? This is Tyler with False Neutral Media, co-host my brother Trevor, and today with us we got Kyle fucking Partridge. I'm super stoked today, dude.
Likewise.
I'm so pumped, and I'm excited to definitely get into it. But tell us a little bit about what you've been up to just as of late after retiring. And I know that you've been, stepping up more as in the dad role with Landon, and he's in BMX and everything. And you got some new stuff to kind of share. Let's get into it.
Heck yeah. So I think I broke my neck for the second time in 2000. I want to say it was like 15 or 16, right after Monster Cup, when I got my Cycle Trader deal. I was at Paula. Came over like a really small little tabletop, and there was a kid that had crashed on like the backside of the jump, and of course no flaggers, and I moved over in the air to miss him and landed in a bunch of soft dirt and ended up hurting my neck. So I ended up calling it quits, and then from there, man, it's been a journey. I'll tell you that for sure. I got super heavily invested in the legal cannabis market. I started working for a company called the Jungle Boys in downtown LA for about a year. And then I moved from there to another company called Tradecraft Farms for probably about 3 or 4 years, where I was in charge of multiple locations, running crews of guys, anywhere between 8 to 10 guys at anywhere from 4 to 5 locations that I was in charge of basically making sure the dudes were doing all their stuff and organizing everything, and the Department of Food and Agriculture, the health inspections, all of that stuff I was super heavily involved with. And then after that kind of fizzled out, I don't want to say I was kind of in like a false neutral spot where I didn't really know what I was going to do. And I was in Huntington Beach and kind of got involved with a wrong group of people, not necessarily like making bad choices or like doing anything crazy, but I just went down a path of like something that I'm not necessarily proud of. I had to go to rehab for a little while, got better, came out of that, and that was probably like 3 years ago now, and I've been clean and sober for almost 3 years total.
That's awesome.
It'll be like 3 years. It'll be 3 years on March. Well, I have it tattooed on me March 23rd.
That's awesome, dude.
So then, as far as the dad role goes, I was always very, very, very involved with Landon, even from a young age. When his mom and I split up, when he was probably around 9 months old, he was traveling with me to all the races every weekend on the flights. I can remember setting up a pack and play at like Indy Supercross, where it's cold, or like St. Louis, where the stadium's underground, and I had the pack and play in the pits, and he's asleep. I have pictures of him still like rolled up in a blanket on the concrete. And it's crazy to think now how old he is and how quickly it's gone by. But now I'm literally, what I do now is I work for a buddy of mine named Nick Valdez. We call him Nick Valdezi. He's a local guy out here from California that was pretty actually sick on a dirt bike and ended up getting hurt really bad, and kind of started his own company where we like buy moving trucks from auctions, and then we convert the moving trucks into tow trucks. And it's been super cool for me to like learn a whole new like avenue of like traits and stuff that I'm actually like getting pretty good at. And yeah, man, here we are now. I'm living in Huntington Beach and couldn't be happier.
That is awesome, dude. Yeah, I feel, I mean, since me and my brother, we rode, not at the level that you did or professional, but you know, the Weekend Warriors stuff between cross country to local motocross and stuff like that. But when Mini Warriors came out and the beginning came out, and I mean, dude, growing up watching you, you were probably one of our favorite riders growing up.
Straight up.
You're just, you had that personality and just smiling, having fun at the track and just riding your dirt bike. And still to this day, I say it, my brother says it, people post it all the time. Kyle Partridge and I still do the doubles like that. Did you ever think
iconic?
Did you ever think when you were on that that would take off that far to this day still?
I really didn't. It's funny. I lived up in NorCal for a little bit in Elk Grove, and I started working for NorCal Motorsports. Tyler Ducre and his dad and mom, and Tyler messaged me like the other day, and he's all, "Do you still do the doubles?" Like,
I saw that, dude. I saw that. Tyler is awesome, dude.
Man, he's a great kid
out there,
and he's got a lot of skills on a dirt bike. He's super sick. I never would have thought back then at 14 or 15 years old when that video was filmed that it would have turned into what it did. And the Mini Warriors for me was like super cool. Obviously I was like 9 or 10 years old. I don't know if you guys remember, but in the very first Mini Warriors, like at the end of the movie, there was like a part where, and this is where this particular person became my favorite rider of all time. Jeff Emig came out and like filmed with us at this place, and it was like up in San Fernando Valley. They called it Staben Ranch.
Yep.
And he let me ride his factory Kawasaki 252 stroke with a #1 plate on it. And I did it was a real short, like 2-minute at the end of the video, but like he was my favorite rider ever since, and I never would have thought back then that it would have turned into what it has. And for me, like out of all the moto videos that there is, there's not as many as there was back then now, but it's definitely, people still like hit me up and tell me that the Mini Warriors and the beginning, and then the time where in Dallas where I wheelied past Nicoletti were probably like the
legendary.
Dude, it led to my favorite headline of all time, which is Kyle Partridge blew my doors off so bad in the woods, he blew me off into the hay bales.
Yeah,
written by Nicoletti.
Somebody sent me that, and it's pretty cool to have Phil say that, because Phil's kind of like I don't give a fuck type attitude,
Oh
like,
yeah,
fuck you. And it was pretty cool to like see him say that about me, and him and I never really be like, like we would see each other at the races when I was racing, be like, hey, what's up? But we never like kicked it together.
Yeah,
I kept the people that were like close to me pretty close, and yeah, man, I saw somebody messaged me. One of my really good friends that I met actually through racing, her name's Corinne. Her and her dad used to come to the races, and she's like, hey, Phil Nicoletti said something to you on said about something on Racer X today, and I like clicked on it, and it was like the top one. I was like, no
it was
way.
So sick seeing that. I think I told you about that last night too. Like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot this happened. But I feel like that's when people started like, I want to wheelie through it. Now you see, Eli Toa, all the guys like just wheeling by. I mean, it's not as cool as the pass you made on Nicoletti, but dude, that probably one of the most legendary passes I've seen in a long time. Like, it was so sick.
It was pretty cool. I can still remember it to this day. Like, I literally, that whole situation came about because I was, at the time, had just gotten fired from Hart Huntington and was kind of a privateer. And there's a kid by the name of Bracken Hall that had moved into my house. And his mom and his dad and him had kind of started their own team with Rocky Mountain. And his dad, in order for me to like, they paid a bunch of money at some point to ride the Troy Lee track, the test track that they used to have up in Corona.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't ride it because I was on a Suzuki. So I couldn't ride the track with him and like help him like I was throughout the week after he moved in with me. So his dad was like, hey, I got a 450 that Bracken won't ride because it's too fast. And he was like, do you want to ride it? And I was like, heck yeah, let's go, And I rode the bike for like one day, and then I went to Dallas, and then that happened. And
dude,
I remember I came back to the truck and I had a bunch of text messages on my phone, and the guy who owns Rocky Mountain texted me, and his I think his partner, and I don't know if they're partners, but one of the guys that worked for him, his name was Raymond Butts. He messaged me and was like, we had no clue that you were even riding for the team. This is so awesome. We're at like the Indy trade show right now. We're all sitting around watching the race, and we watch you do it. He's like, you're with us for life, kind of deal. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was awesome.
So let's go back to the beginning real quick. And I want to ask you, how were you approached to be in these amateur films that were coming up? Who came up to you and like, how did it happen? Did they approach family, or was it just the fact that you were absolutely fucking killing it and they were like, get over here?
Yeah, I think for the most part, as far as I can remember, I know Malcolm had a really big part in it. Malcolm McCaskey was really heavily involved with Mini Warriors in the beginning, and stuff like that. And I've always been really good friends with Malcolm. Him and my brother were really good friends also. So I had that relationship with Malcolm. And fortunately for me at the time, I was pretty good as an amateur. I was winning a lot of races. I was always up in the mix. Me and Davey and Josh Lichtel probably had some of the best battles I've had in my entire career. And they kind of came to me and were like, hey, we're doing this video. Would you guys be interested in filming with us? And then it kind of took off from there.
Were you with the making those movies? Did you, in the beginning, did you pick that song, or did the people like Malcolm or anyone make that? Because I mean, still to this day, you listen to that song and you're just like, it's Kyle Partridge.
Yeah, they luckily for me, I didn't really have any input on like the editing or like music choices or stuff like that. I literally, for the first time when I saw it, that's what I saw when it was done. I saw like little clips here and there of them like doing the editing and stuff when they were doing it, but they never had music to it. It was just me ripping, and you could hear the bikes and stuff. So when I first saw it for the very first time was when everyone else saw it for the very first time. And like I work with one of my buddies that I work with now. His name's Kyle Fry, and he'll sometimes play the song on the way to work because we carpool together. He used to ride Supercross and stuff.
That's so funny. That's awesome.
Like I'll wake up and I'll just be super tired. And I'm like, fuck, I don't want to go to work. And I'll sit in the front seat of the car with him, and he'll play the song, and I'll like open my eyes and look over at him, and he's kind of like just looking at me like, yeah, man, it's really cool.
That's freaking awesome. So, dude, just from posting too, you could just tell from everyone that that follows you and like now from your amateur career to your professional career, so much love for you, like so much love. You could see it, all the stories. I mean, even your brother was in there commenting, hey, ask him about like the Harry Potter closet and everything. Like there's so much love for you, and I think that's super amazing, especially in this sport that's so independent almost. Even like you said, when you get to a certain level, the family kind of separates a little bit, because you get the team managers, you have to practice, you have training, a lot of stuff just comes into it. But it's awesome to see a lot of these fans that still love Kyle Partridge and who you were as a rider, and just at the track with your personality and just your riding. You were really fun to watch, definitely as a kid for me. And I even learned a lot from you. So how does that kind of feel personally from just that love that you're seeing even after all these years for you?
Yeah, it's definitely for me. It's kind of a trip, right? So you grow up racing dirt bikes your whole life. You typically, when you turn pro, you're still racing the same guys you were racing when you rode 60s or 80s. And when I got hurt the second time I broke my neck, I really kind of, I don't want to say had a rude awakening, but kind of had a little bit of like a moment where I was like, kind of like realized a lot of friends that I thought were my friends weren't my friends. And then a lot of friends that I didn't know were my friends came out of the woodworks, like all these fans and all these people that like helped me out. And, when I got hurt, I was laying in the hospital the second time, and I could probably say, maybe 5 people that I raced against or 5 people that I rode dirt bikes with actually even ever made sure I was okay. It was definitely a huge eye opener for me. And I've kind of, after that happened, I've literally been very, very careful about even going to the races. I've been to, since I got hurt the last time in 2015 or in 16, it was like end of 15 going into 16. I think I've been to like 3 races just because I don't want to be around or surrounded by people that are like the cool guy in the pits. And then when I walk away or running their mouths about me or have something negative to say about me, I would rather be around the people that are like the fans of it that like me, because when I was at the races, I took a minute to out of my day to like go talk to them and sign an autograph or give somebody a hat, or, you know, I that to me has been super, super cool. And I've luckily for me was able to establish a good little base of people that kind of followed me throughout my career. And, you know, one thing that I'll never forget, the guy from Rocky Mountain, the owner of Rocky Mountain, came up to me and told me one weekend was, you know, every weekend when I rode for them, they would give like 15, I think, or 20 people like a VIP experience where they would come down to the truck. I'd walk through the truck with them, show them all the parts, where everything was, sign autographs, take pictures. We'd feed them. I'd sit down at each table with each group of people and sit for like 10 minutes and chat with them. And, you know, the owner of Rocky Mountain was like, you know, nobody's going to remember who won this race in 10 years. He's like, but they will remember you sitting down and talking with them and having an experience with them. And that's one thing that we really, truly like take pride in you representing us in. And that's something that for me, as I've grown up and gotten older now, I'm super thankful for, because there was a long time in my career when I was racing pro that I was kind of like a fuck it attitude. You know, I got in a lot of trouble. I was fired from multiple teams for things that I probably shouldn't have been doing. You know, I got fired from Moto World for rolling a golf cart, rolling a rental car in Texas with J Law, and there being alcohol in the car. And I just, a lot of times didn't really take it, I wouldn't say seriously, but I didn't really appreciate it. I thought that I was just kind of like, I'd always find a home, you know? And as I got older, I realized that those homes were getting a little bit more scarce. And probably like the last 5 years of my career, especially the end towards when I got my cycle trader deal, I was really putting in a lot of work. I was really going to the gym. I was really putting in effort. You know, I'll be real with you, like all the way up until the last 5 years that I rode, I never even would train during the week. Never was in the gym, never was eating right, never was taking care of my body. I would just ride. And I relied a lot on my natural talent, which I feel I was gifted from my brother, which I don't know if you guys know anything much about my brother, but my older brother was fucking bad.
Yeah, he was.
My brother, you know, had to go on vacation for a little bit. And when he got out, I took him to Zaka Station. He hadn't ridden a dirt bike for probably 8 years. Threw on a set of my gear. I took a video of him riding, and Carmichael commented on the post and was like, so cool to see him riding. Style's still the same. I used to hate racing because I knew I was going to get handled. You know, so I took a lot of that natural talent, natural ability to ride a dirt bike from my brother, because he was super smooth, very effortless. Just, he was my idol, you know, like I looked up to him my whole life. And so, yeah, you know, I'm super grateful for the people that have kind of stood behind me. And I've had a lot of people that have like helped me that I never would have thought would. And when I thought the people that would have helped me didn't help me, it opened my eyes to a lot of people not actually being sincere or truly a friend to me. And in the dirt bike world, it's a very like dog eat dog world. You know, you're only as 100%. Good as your last race, period. You're only as good as your last race, no matter what anyone says. And for me, it took me a really long time to recognize that. And once I recognized it, I started like really figuring out a way to make money. Really had a lot of really good sponsors that like I would find out of nowhere that luckily for me took care of me for a long time, including Saquon, the Indian Casino in El Cajon. You know, they were a part of my career for a very long time until I took it to, I rode for Star Racing one year outdoors. And up until that point, I had Saquon with me for like maybe 4 years, and everyone in the pits kind of knew Saquon was a really big Indian casino.
Yeah.
They're much larger than Pachanga. They're much larger than Morongo. They're like one of the second largest Indian casinos in the whole United States. And all these people were trying to get me to take these sponsors of their teams. And I ended up going to Star Racing. I rode like, I want to say like half of the outdoors for them. Saquon paid Bobby Reagan $150,000 for me to ride for his team. and it was brutal, man. It was a team, and now looking back on it, like I still no matter what, we'll keep this in my mind as like, I know Bobby's been very successful, and his whole entire team is like they're awesome, you know, like they're winning, they have great bikes, they have a good program, awesome people involved. But a lot of the people that are involved now weren't involved when I was racing. You know, Brad has always been there. Brad is a genius, a wizard. He's one of the smartest dudes I've ever been able to work with. And, you know, not a lot of people know, but, you know, Bobby Reagan's a car salesman from Mississippi. You know, he didn't really have a background in motocross. And I remember I went to Hangtown, and I'd only ridden the bike for like 45 minutes at Pula on the vet track before my bike went to Hangtown for the first outdoor national. And it was like the first year when Yamaha came out with the 450 and flipped the motor around. So a lot of guys were having trouble with the bike, you know, like getting it to handle. And I remember I went to Hangtown, and I just could not ride the bike. I was having a hard time. I could do like a couple laps, and then I just felt like super out of gas. I could not barely breathe. I was getting pumped up. And I remember Bobby Reagan like came over to me in the pits, and my mom was there, and the chairman for the casino was there. And he like, I'll never forget, like he always called me by my first and last name. He never would be like, Kyle, you know, he was like, Kyle Partridge, I'll watch you roll around that track one more time. I'm putting your back up in the truck, and you won't race another race. Trust me, motherfucker. And I was like, no way, dude. I was just like, whoa, you know, like,
yeah.
So yeah, man, it definitely for me, the fans and the people that have stuck behind me, I'm so thankful and grateful for. I still talk to a lot of people that you never would have thought I would still be talking to, and I've written off a lot of the people in my life that I grew up racing with since I was 6 years old. I literally can probably tell you there's maybe like 5 people in my life that I talk to, and one of them being Hanson. You know, I talk to Josh on a very regular basis, probably 2-3 times a week. We FaceTime each other, we text each other dumb shit, we goof around. Was in the hospital when my son was born. You know, he's been in my life since I was a little kid, and that's something I'm super thankful for. But there's just a lot of guys that, you know, I kind of wrote off, and after I stopped racing, I have people reach out that are fans, and I'm so grateful for it. It's been awesome.
Hell yeah. I mean, even speaking about when you were talking about spending time with the fans and stuff, and what Rocky Mountain said, we have a comment on the post of us sharing the podcast where somebody said, the hat in that picture, I'm pretty sure Kyle took off his head, signed it for me, and gave it to me in the pits. And so I was like,
and they told me not to.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, they were like, "Don't give the hat."
I remember her like very, very, very clearly. Like we were signing autographs, and so when I rode for Rocky Mountain the first year, I was riding for Fox, who I rode for my whole life. I was like one of the first guys to ever wear shift gear when Emig came out with it at like the U.S. Open in like '98.
Iconic chest gear too, yeah. The shift gear, yes,
so
sir.
I was able to establish a really good relationship. I rode for Fox all my amateur career, from the time I was like 3 or 4 years old until I turned pro, and even after. So like after I rode for Shift, the guys from One Industries had reached out to me, and it was the first time in my career where there was a gear company that was going to pay me money. So I was like, hell yeah, you know, like I hit up the guys at Fox, and I was like, yo, you know, like I know you guys are a huge company, and I'm not one of the top dudes, but I'm still one of the dudes, and I want to like at least give you guys the opportunity to match what they give me. And they didn't, which I understood. You know, they had Stu and Carmichael and Dungy and all these dudes that they were paying them millions of dollars to wear their gear. So One Industries at Red Bull Straight Rhythm, the first year that they put it on was like my first event for them. And I was wearing a One Industries hat that they made just for me. There was only one of them. And it had like an orange, like it's in that picture that you guys posted, actually. It's like an orange, like snapback in the front. And I remember I was signing autographs at Straight Rhythm, and the dude, I can't remember what his name was at the time, that was like in charge of One Industries, but he's like, one of the girls was like, can I have your hat? And I was like taking it off my head. He was like, no, you can't give that to her. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, this is like, you guys are trying to tell me you can't make another one, you know, like I'm just gonna, and I just did it. and I ended up actually from that moment on, the dude from One Industries, a couple of them like Dennis, who now works for Seven, and a couple other guys, like we still are like really cool, really close, and I think that they kind of respected me more for saying I was going to do it just because I wanted to make somebody's day a little bit better. And
Right.
yeah, man, it was definitely, I remember that like to this day, like giving her the hat, and and everyone at One Industries was like, no, you can't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, man,
That's just like the guy that you were too. So it's like, and it's hard to keep, that energy, especially on race days when you're trying to put food in your stomach. You're trying to get ready for the next race. You're going back to watching footage. You're being told, this line's faster, go inside here, go outside there. And you're getting ready for, whether it was qualifying and, all of that. So it is definitely cool. Like we talked about earlier, like just the person you are to the fans, it's really special. And you don't, I mean, you see it, you see it a lot more, today, I feel, but especially back then, I feel like it was very rare, but in special. And I think fans appreciate that way more than, like you said, getting a first place all the time or winning races all the time, because you have all these kids that are looking up to you and everything. So dude, it's just cool like that you were just one of those guys. And I'm pumped. Yeah, genuine, just for the fans, for the people who supported you, and just trying to give back either way, even if they told you no.
For sure. And that's one thing for me, like when I was racing, I never went to the races expecting to win, like I was more of a realist, like like if I can give you an example, like I remember I rode my last year of Rocky Mountain. I think I got like 11th or 12th in the 450 class in points. I was doing really well. I remember it was when like the heat races where they took 4 out of the heat, 6 out of the semi, 4 out of the LCQ. So, and it was really hard to qualify out of the heat if you weren't a factory guy, because you had like 6 or 7 factory dudes in each heat race.
Right.
And I can remember like I rode for Cycle Trader, and we were at Monster Cup, and like to give you an example of like how much I don't want to say didn't care, but like just wanted to be straight up with people, was like Christina Denny, who was running the team at the time, came up to me and was like, hey, like this is what we're expecting. If, this is what you need to do, blah, blah, blah. And I literally was like, yo, like I haven't ridden a dirt bike since May. I just did straight rhythm. I did really well. Like I almost beat Dungy at straight rhythm like the week before. Yeah. And I was like, I'm just going to let you know, like, I just want to make the main event.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like go out and like win the race. Not trying to have no placing. Like you had to qualify out of practice. There was no like, it was tough, and they only took, right, I think like 20 or 30 guys to the heat race, something crazy. So I remember like I sat her down in the semi and I was like, yo, like, I'm just going to be real with you. Like I haven't ridden for like 4 months, but maybe 2 times. I went and bought my own bike just so I could get comfortable on a Yamaha before I rode this thing. So your expectations need to be like way lower.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go out here and fucking win the race tonight. I'm definitely planning on hoping to make the main event, but that's like my goal.
Right.
And when I race Supercross, even like towards the end of my career, like I would go to A1 and my main goal was just to make the main event. And even if I got last place, I made the main event, because that's the first round when all the dudes are healthy. Mm-hmm. Everyone's there. There's maybe like 3 privateers in the main event. And those privateers are like, people look at them like, holy shit, they made it. And then there's 17 other factory dudes, So mm-hmm. I would go to the first round, and my goal was like, okay, A1, make the main. Wherever I end up, every weekend after that, I just need to get 1 place better than the weekend before.
Right.
Let's just say I got 21st. I want to get 20th next weekend, and then 19th the next weekend. And luckily for me, it ended up working out. And I would like halfway through the season, I was like I was doing like 11, 12, 13. I remember I got 9th at Detroit and past Shorty and past Brayton. And JB, when I turned pro, was on the same team as me. Mm-hmm. We rode for Moto World Suzuki together. And I'll never forget, he like showed up to the test track one day and he had his hair permed. And it was like super curly and like he looked like Screech from Saved by the Bell. So I always called him
Oh my God.
so I always called him Big Perm, you know. I was like, what
Oh
up, Big
shoot.
Perm?
That's freaking hilarious.
So I remember he came up to me and he's like, KP, he's like, man, you're riding really good, dude. He's like, good job, man. And I was like, thanks, Big Perm. You know, we just kind of like laughed, you know. But yeah, man, it definitely for me, like my biggest thing when I was racing was like, just be a realist and enjoy it. And you're never going to get these times back again. And, you know, there was a couple years there that I don't want to say that I regret it, but I kind of do regret some of the choices and decisions that I made. But at the same time, I wouldn't take it back because it was probably some of the best times of my life, you know?
Absolutely.
For sure. So yeah, man, the fans are a huge part of my deal.
Yeah. I'll also say, brother, you got relentless tattooed on your arm for a reason. Show me an NFL player who breaks their neck and goes back out and competes at the pro level. Sorry, dude. It's brutal watching your foot injury, your neck injury, and you still were coming back, still getting to the bike, still trying to qualify for me. Like the relentlessness that you pursued. You have to understand, I would be watching Supercross and I fell out for a time, probably like after you retired around there. But we would watch Supercross. We'd see you in any place and be like, the boy's in, he's there, he's going. Because at the end of the day, dude, you're talking to two people over 6 feet that looked at people like you, Kevin Windham, who have bike setups for bigger dudes and are out there putting the business on people in the whoop section. Like,
yeah, man.
So yeah, coming back from everything. Come on, man.
That's crazy. I know. And a lot of people don't remember, but when I did my foot, I broke my neck too at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and I was in the hospital in St. Louis for like 40 days. I came out of the hospital, ended up getting staph infection, had to go back to the hospital for a week. Then my neck didn't heal right. So I had to have surgery again.
Fused from the back.
Yeah, I was fused from the back in St. Louis, and then it didn't heal right, so I got fusion through the front. And then so I was out again, and then the whole deal with Hart kind of like, that's when I was riding for Kerry, and that whole deal kind of fell apart and fizzled out, and I came back from that, and yeah, man, that was one thing that, like, you know, my dad was always really, really, really big on, is like, success only comes before work in the dictionary, you know, like make sure you put in the work, and if you put in the work, the results will come. And every time that I wasn't getting the results, he would always call me. And, you know, my dad growing up was very, very, very hard on me. And if you could imagine any moto dad in like 2000s, he was the most extreme. And in a sense, like I kind of resented him for it. But now as I've gotten older, I kind of understand why he did it. But at the same time, like, you know, it was definitely, it wasn't an easy road for me to get to where I got. Not saying that I got anywhere great. I mean, I had a really good few races here and there. I think my best finish was like a 4th or 5th or something like that in San Francisco in the lights class. And then my last year that I rode the 450, I ended up winning like the GoPro Privateer Award, which is like 20 grand. I got like 11th in points. And I started clicking stuff off, and I got that deal with Cycle Trader, and that was like a dream come true for me, because my bike especially, because I was the only 450 guy on the Cycle Trader team, it was all factory Yamaha. So it was pretty sick to like ride that bike. And I remember at Monster Cup, I remember telling Christina, I was like, this thing's too fast, you know, like I can't ride it. Like we need to slow it down or something. What do we do? You know, put the practice bike motor in it, something, you know?
I feel like that's how it is even now with Yamahas still. I think I mean, as you can see, the Yamahas are up there, and everybody, I have a KX 450, but now I want a Yamaha. And everybody that I've talked to, or even when I've seen at like the pro level, even Eli Tomac has said like, dude, this bike is so fast, it scares me. Cooper Webb even hopped on Eli's bike and was like, no, I'm good. I did 2 laps on that thing. No, I like mine. Man. It's slower.
They're crazy fast. I mean, before I signed my deal with Cycle Trader, I was kind of in between with Rocky Mountain and Cycle Trader. We were going back and forth with Rocky Mountain because they had last rights refusal. And I went and bought my own bike. Went and bought a YZ 450 from Rocky Mountain. And all I did was put a pipe on it, and the thing was crazy fast, like stupid. Even today, like, you know, I'm trying to buy a YZ 252 stroke, But if I were to go and buy a bike and have the money to spend $12,000 or $13,000 on a 450, 100% it would be a Yamaha.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you don't have to do a lot to it to like make it fast and like rider friendly.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some sick bikes right now.
Definitely.
Have you been keeping up with just Supercross in general going on this year?
Heck yeah. I've always followed it. I don't necessarily watch like the races on Saturday. Like I'll wake up Sunday morning or something, like watch the replay on Peacock or something, but I don't like religiously like watch it. But I do definitely still follow it, and it's pretty crazy to watch these kids that are coming up, and like Deegan obviously, and Cole Davies and Chance Hymas, and all these kids that are just crazy fast and super talented. I still have a couple guys that I root for and that are my favorite, like El Hombre. Jason will always be one of my favorite
hell
guys.
yes.
I love that dude. He's bad as fuck on a dirt bike.
Such a good dude.
And I've known him since he was probably 9 years old through the amateur program when I rode for Suzuki. My last couple of years as like a B rider and pro rider, he was riding 80s with my little brother. So like I've known him and his dad for a really, really, really long time. And I literally, like, I tell my girlfriend all the time, I'm like, that's my guy. I'm like, like I don't think it was Indy, or maybe it was the one before Daytona. I think he like hole shot the main event and led for a little bit. And I was in the living room, dude, like, let's fucking go.
Yep. I was standing up off the couch. So
super fanning, dude. I was like super fan. I was like, let's go, baby. And it's cool, to watch those dudes that I grew up racing or watched grow up as a kid. And yeah, man, it's crazy. The series now is pretty wild.
Yeah.
So I have a personal question for you, Kyle.
Yep.
As somebody who watched you throughout amateurs in like, we always, right, as somebody who throws their leg over the bike, you always imagine being on that start in Supercross, the crowd, the lights, the intro, the whole night show. Walk us through how you felt the first time you lined up, where heroes that you would watch, like Jeff Immig, as you were talking to us about earlier, all these people have lined up on this line. Walk us through how you felt the first time, because brother, not everybody can get to the pro ranks. And the fact that you got on the line, I just want you to walk me through. How did it feel going into that?
So my first race at a Supercross is a little bit different than probably anyone else's. So when I turned pro, it was a mud race at Anaheim, and I don't think we had practice. And we were at a riders meeting, and I think it was John Gallagher at the time was still like the head referee dude. They literally took back when I raced Supercross, they used to have day qualifiers. So, and if you weren't top 10 in points, you had to race those day qualifiers to make it into the night show. It wasn't based on practice. So we weren't able to do the day qualifiers. So they took the top 10 guys from the season prior, put them in the main event, and then they drew names out of a hat.
Oh wow!
For the rest of the guys to make the main, right? And so this is like my very first race. Didn't get my name called in the hat. So I'm like, I remember I go up in the semi and I was like crying. I was like so sad. I called my dad. I was like, I'm so, And then the team manager for Motor World, his name was Paul Lindsay. There was this kid in, I want to say NorCal. His name was Travis Smith, I think. His name got pulled. So the team manager paid him the same amount of money he would have made if he would have won the main event for me to take his spot.
Dude.
Wow.
Right. So I'm like on the line and I already have all this pressure on myself to like make the main event. Now these dudes have paid this kid $2,500 for me to take his spot. Everyone knows about it. And I didn't qualify.
Oh my God.
So I'm like sitting on the starting line of the first heat race and I'm like shitting my pants, I'm like, oh my God, like so stressed out, so nervous, like more nervous than I've ever been from that moment on, like at all the A1s that I've raced. And I did pretty much every A1 from that point on until I retired. So yeah, dude, it was definitely a moment of like in my life that like I'll never forget, just like sitting on the line. I remember I like looked to my right and I want to say that I had like I want to say that I had like Nate Ramsey
Dude.
or someone like that, and they had just won the championship the year before. And I'm like, dude, like, how am I? I think we got like maybe like a 10-minute practice. The whole track was just, you were just rolling everything. You couldn't even jump stuff. And I remember I didn't qualify. And I just remember like, I was so bummed out, like so disappointed. And it's kind of crazy to think like, as I've gotten older and I race, like that first round kind of sets you up.
Yeah.
You know, like you make the main at that first round. Everyone after that's a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would always go to like A1 and I'd be like, all right. In my heat race, when I was racing that last couple of years, it was 4, 6, 4 out of the qualifiers. And I'd be like, all right, I just want to get a good start in the heat race, try to ride with these dudes as long as I can, learn what I can, and then put myself in a good position in the semi. And back then, they would take all the even numbers. So if you got like 6th, 8th, 10th, 12th, 14th, 16th, 18th, 20th, 22 in your heat race, you were automatically in semi number 2.
Mm-hmm.
But then they took the odd numbers of guys like 5, 7, 9, 11, those dudes, and they were in semi number 1. So you always wanted to be in semi number 2 because semi number 1 had the first dude that didn't make it out of the heat race, and it was going to be more stacked.
Mm-hmm.
So I would literally, like, in my heat race, I remember I was at a race and it was like me and Nick Schmidt, and he kind of caught on to my program. Like I literally would like have dudes pass me on the last lap so that I got the easier semi, so that I would definitely make the main event. So there was definitely a little bit of like an idea going into it. Like, all right, you know, I had a little game plan, and it usually worked out for me.
What was out of your career? What was your most favorite track to race at in Supercross? Because I know that you love Supercross a lot more than outdoors, even though in your amateur career you were just an absolute beast. But what for Supercross, your favorite track or stadium that you love, the crowd, the environment? Which one was it for you?
I would probably say for me Vegas, just because that's where I was from. You know,
Yeah.
I grew up on hard packed dirt, and Vegas was always really good to me. And I had a lot of people come out that, you know, watching me grow up racing. Vegas was cool. Phoenix was really good also from the hard packed dirt. I really liked the hard pack stuff because I grew up riding 2-strokes, and on a 2-stroke on a hard pack track, you had to have super good throttle control and be really smooth. But probably one of my favorite races, probably to this date, was it was Detroit Supercross 2000. I want to say 2015. I think Baggett was riding for Factory Suzuki number 4.
Yeah.
And I just remember it was like right almost towards later in the year. I want to say like the last quarter of Supercross. And I remember I was in the main event. The stadium went into the bleachers, which was sick.
Yeah.
Like went in the stadium, then came back down, and there's like a little double and the triple across the starting line. And I remember like in the main event, I was like, I don't know how, but I got a really good start. In Supercross, I never really got great starts. And as an amateur, I was like hole shotting everything. I was always up front. So I got a good start, and I started riding with these dudes, and I was training, and I was going to the gym with Charles out in Icon and Marietta, Charles Dow. And I remember I like started riding with these dudes, and I like caught Short. And I think Short was like in 6th or 7th, and it was like lap, I want to say like 13 or 14. And I remember I passed him, and I was like, damn, these dudes aren't that sick. You know, I was like, I thought these dudes were way faster than this. You know, I was like, they're not that fast. And I like jumped off the track, and like 4 dudes passed me because it was like Short, Brayton. I want to say like Pike was right there, and there was a couple other dudes right in the mix, and they all passed me, but I ended up getting like 8th or 9th in the main. So that was like one of my highlights. And then outdoors, when it came to outdoors, I would say probably the highlight of my outdoor career was I rode for a team up out of, I think it was like Paso Robles. It was like a powerhouse Yamaha dealership. And I rode for them the whole year in Supercross. I went to the East-West Shootout, and I got 6th at the East-West Shootout. And then the week up to Hangtown, I wasn't planning on racing. I was just going to go do local stuff and do some money races and make money doing that. And the guys from, it was called Buku Energy Honda. And it was like David Villeman, Steve Boniface, Justin Keeney, and Josh DeMuth. were on the team. And the owner of the team, his name was Jim, not the owner, but the team manager's name was Jim Lewis. He owns Merge Racing, the suspension company now.
Okay.
Well, he called me and he was like, "Hey man," he's like, "we really would like for you to come up and race this weekend for us, but you have to ride the 450 class." And I never in my career even ever rode a 450 up until this point. I always rode two strokes because I rode for Suzuki and they didn't have the 450 when I rode amateur.
Right.
So I was like, all right, cool. So me and my brother drove up to Hangtown. We stayed at a Motel 6 the night before. I go to the track. I'm sitting on the starting line and Michael Hooligan was the owner. He walks up to me and he was like, "Hey man, if you can finish top 10 in lap times in practice, we'll sign you for the rest of the year." Like
no pressure or anything. Like,
yeah, exactly. Never rode the bike, never ridden a 450. And I'm like, my brother was my mechanic. And I'm like, I'm kind of tripping, you know, I'm like, holy crap, like, how am I going to do this? Carmichael was there, Stu was there, like Villeman was there, all these guys. And I'm like, there's no chance. So my brother went over to Ricky and was like, "Hey, I need you to pull him around the track. You know, like if you can help him, pull him around the track." So Ricky came over to me and he's like, "All right," he's like, I'm gonna come by you. And when I come by you and I wave to you, he's like, "Just follow me." Because I was pretty good at like getting behind people and I could go fast for a lap.
That's awesome.
I could go pretty fast for a lap and I could stay right with them. And even when I rode later in my career, I was really good at like, I'd always get behind Kennard because Kennard was really smooth and we had similar riding styles.
Dude.
And
correct. Yeah.
I would end up really good in times, you know, and that mattered when you went to the heat race for your gate pick. So I remember Ricky was like, "Just get behind me." So I was like, "All right, I can do it." My brother was like, "All you need is one lap, dude."
Yeah.
One lap. That's it. One lap. So I was like, "All right." So I remember Ricky, and it was kind of a little bit muddy, I think. I remember it was a little bit rainy that day. And I like was in the mechanics area and Ricky was in there talking to Goose. And as I was pulling out of the mechanics area, Ricky like came up and revved his bike. He was like, "Come on, let's go." So we jumped on the track and I did a lap and I was like 8th fastest. And I ended up getting my deal for the rest of the year, moved to Texas. And then from there, you know, kind of did the outdoors then. But yeah, man, Hangtown was probably one of my favorite rounds. I think I have a picture at my mom's house. I ended up passing, like, I think I passed Wyndham, who was like my all-time idol.
Right.
On the last lap, last corner, and I think I got like 8th or something in the first moto.
So sick.
There's a picture of me like passing him. It's like a frame by frame, and my mom has it like framed at the house up in Oregon. So
oh, hell yeah.
Yeah,
dude, I would too.
I still got Wyndham's #1 jersey from the West Coast Supercross Championship when he rode for Factory Yamaha in the 125 class at my mom's.
Dude, no way.
He's like, yeah, bro. He was like my favorite rider of all time, my biggest idol. Like I always got, when I was racing amateur, a lot of times I was referred to and compared to him as like style wise, because I was really like smooth and effortless and just made it look easy. So yeah, dude, Hangtown was cool. Obviously Bud's Creek, Red Bud, those type of places. Wasn't a big fan of Southwick, not a sand rider. But yeah, dude, Vegas and Supercross and outdoors, those are probably my favorite races.
Hell yeah. So question for you. You had talked about how you found it easier to kind of match people's pace and follow them. Do you think that had anything to do with you riding with your brother when you were younger? Like we've seen in some of the moto videos, like Mini Warriors, you and your brother kind of like riding together. Do you think that that was something that you could connect with really easily by having somebody next to you that you could match the pace or beat, like you were talking about going with Short and catching them and being like, "Hey, these guys aren't that fast. I can stay up here."
Yeah, I think it definitely for sure helped me. My brother's, I think, so my brother is 78, 9, 80, 81, 82, 83, 45. He's 8 years older than me. So he was obviously on a little bit of a bigger bike. So I wasn't able to really like get behind him and like, I guess like track him in a sense, you know, and like follow his lines and like figure it out. But as I got a little bit older and, you know, I started riding 125s and my brother was still riding a little bit here and there. And I remember like the last couple of years before he stopped racing, his deal was like, you know, until I'm going to ride until you beat me type thing, you know? And I remember we were at like a local race in Cedar City and I was like riding like the schoolboy class or something that year. And I beat him and he was like, and from that moment on, like, you know, I definitely can say it helped me. I think the #1 thing that helped me with doing that was one point in my career when I turned pro, I was riding for Moto World, and I went back to Tallahassee, and Chris Gossler was my teammate on Moto World, and his dad was obviously Ricky's mechanic. So I got a lot of riding in at the farm with Ricky and Goose. And I mean, you can probably go back into time and look back on it and ask anybody that was teammates with Ricky. Like, he did not let anyone ride with him.
Yeah,
right.
No one.
Ever. Never. Like Pastrana, Roncata, Tortelli, nobody. Like, he would go to the test track and
Oh,
I think you muted.
oh, hold on.
here we go. Sorry.
There we go.
I had a phone call.
Oh, no worries.
No worries.
But yeah, no, Ricky wouldn't let anyone ride with him. You know, he was very like selective on who he let ride with him. And I was able to get in with Ricky and ride with him. And I did the boot camp with him and Alden and Goose with the road bike rides. And it was just something for me that like I never got to experience. And then I was doing a lot with Davey, his mom, and Colleen, and as well as riding with all those guys. Like like if you look at the videos now at MTF of those guys riding Supercross, it hasn't changed at all as far as like the way that they set their program up. They have like a select, like, I want to say like 8 to 10 guys that like get to ride at Davey's mom's house, which is where like I think the Star guys kind of took it over now.
I believe so. Yeah, a little bit.
They like did their Daytona track there, I think, this year. And I remember like it was just good for me to like, because I was never like on a skill level as like Pastrana or even Davey when we turned pro. Like Davey just stepped it up a whole nother level, you know. Like that last year that I rode for Suzuki as an amateur, you know, they kind of sat me and Davey down at Whitney and were like, you guys, the ride for next year on the pro team is between you and Davey. And whoever does the best this weekend, you know, that's who's going to get the ride. And I remember I looked over at Davey and I was like, it's fucking on, dude. Let's go.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, I'm getting it. And I ended up winning every class but one at Whitney. And then every class but two at Mosier. I beat Davey and all these guys. And then I ended up going to Loretta Lynn qualifier the week before World Mini. And I tore my ACL, MCL, PCL, LCL, and meniscus in my left knee.
Oh,
so
man.
I like pretty much blew my whole knee out and wasn't able to ride for, I think it was like 18 months.
Yeah.
So they ended up giving the ride to Davey, which ultimately for Suzuki was a better choice because, you know, the first round, I don't even think he was old enough to race. His birthday was like the day after.
Oh, wow.
So he didn't even get to race like the first race. And then he ended up winning the championship or whatever later in his career. But, you know, it was for me, like being able to get behind those guys later in my career when I turned pro. I think I had kind of like a little bit of respect between a lot of guys where they didn't really care. But at the same time, a lot of those dudes don't like that shit. You know, they don't want you jumping in behind them. They don't want you trying to ride with them, especially in practice, because the last thing they want to be worried about is listening to some dude revving his bike behind them while they're trying to set their fast lap.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of things that I would say kind of helped me do that. My brother. But as far as the pro stuff goes, I think I just had a good relationship with people to where I was able to do it and not get yelled at by them.
I love that, man. I love that.
Cool. I definitely want to read some of these comments because I got some in my DMs definitely for you. And from there, or from the post that we did. Let's see. So we got one from Mikey Oliver. What was your favorite memory with Jason growing up?
My favorite memory of Jason, my brother?
Yeah.
Man, there's so many. I don't want to get emotional because, man, my brother is, you know, if anyone that knows me knows my brother, and my brother is like, I don't want to say almost like my dad, you know, because he's kind of like helped me out my whole life. I would say my best memory of my brother, my favorite memory ever, is when my brother beat Ricky at Loretta's. I was like probably like 8 or 9 years old. Kawasaki had built these 80s for Ricky, my brother, and Brock Sellards. They were the only 3 guys that had them. And I remember I went to Star West. I was like, I wasn't allowed to ride, but Kawasaki had rented out the track for them to ride. And they had tested like these badass like 80s upside down forks. Like they were the shit. I'll send you a picture of it after we get off the call, Tyler, of the bike that they built for my brother. It's in front of like the old Team Green box van with like the pink thumb, like, you know.
Oh, that is sick.
I would say that would probably be one of my best memories as a kid. And then as I got older, you know, my brother, like I said, kind of had to take a little break for a little bit. And the best memory after he took his break was the day he got out for me. It was just something for me that like, I lost my brother for a really long time. I don't want to say a really long time, but a good like 3 or 4 years there where I didn't really have, I had a relationship with him. We were still really close, but he wasn't like my idol anymore, you know? And when he got out and was there and I saw his face and I could just see like, I remember telling him, I'm like, I got my brother back.
Yeah.
And ever since then, you know, he's been a huge inspiration to my life. He's played a huge role in my life. He's always there for me if I need him. And, you know, if you could imagine, I'm sure you guys, you know, you guys are brothers. If you could have like picture the best brotherly relationship you could ever have, it's like my brother is my best friend. And, I, even after racing, like I would say one of my favorite memories even now today is just like watching him grow into the man that he has and what he's accomplished and what he's overcome and how much adversity and how many trials and tribulations he went through in his life to where he is now. So yeah, man, there's a lot. My brother and me have been through a lot of shit. One of the more fun times I think I can relate to was we were at Dallas Supercross one year. And I was riding for Powerhouse Yamaha at the time. It was like me, Eric Nye, a kid named Chris Nyhan, and I want to say there was like one more other kid on the team. But we were at the race, and all the guys from Yamaha and Troy and everyone used to like go to certain restaurants and eat together. So we like go eat dinner, we come back, and all these dudes are in the back of the hotel, and there was like a I want to say like a quarter mile of pavement like behind the hotel, and then there was like a grass field, but in between the grass field there was like a storm drain ditch, a concrete like big, it was like 30 feet wide for when it rains and all the water goes through it, you know. And we're pulling over to park the car, and all the dudes from Yamaha and Troy are like out in this field, like I don't want to say partying, but they're like hanging out, you know.
Yeah, it was
like Dang, McAvoy, like all these dudes were back there, you know. And
oh shit!
we're like, what the hell's going on? They're like, we just jumped this huge gap and into the field, but like there was no tire marks.
Yeah.
So they were kind of spicing a little bit. Now they're throwing a little spice on the story, like to make it seem like they did it. And my brother was like, let's do it.
Oh shit!
So I'm like, and we're like in this rental car, and I'm like, fuck, it's not my rental car, it's the team manager's.
Oh my god.
The team owner's rental car, and I remember we like backed up down this parking lot, and it seemed like forever. And we're like sitting there, and I'm like, I don't know. And I remember I like looked over at my brother, and I think I had my mechanic in the back seat. This actually is, I would say, is probably one of my best memories of my brother. And I like looked over at my brother. He's all, "Don't be a pussy."
Oh shit!
And dude, I just remember we took off down this back road, hit this grass hill, and like the car nosedived into the grass.
Oh.
And it fucking like broke the axles through the radiator into the motor. Like it ruined this rental car. And I was so afraid to go up and tell the team owner, like, hey, I just dusted your rental car out.
Oh my god.
We literally, dude, this is the craziest part. We didn't even knock on the door. We just left his keys outside of his hotel room and went to our room and went to bed.
Bro. I mean, yeah, might as well just leave it and get chewed out later and enjoy the rest of the night, man.
Showed up at the track the next day, went and rode. He came to the track later, didn't have insurance on the car. He had to pay for the car. Like, dude, it was all bad.
Oh my god, yeah. Dear Lord.
It was pretty crazy.
And we got a question from, this made me freaking laugh hard, from Moto Playground. They commented, ask him about the time he streaked the track at World Mini and we had to run a spread in Moto Playground. Ron Henriksen was not happy.
Yeah, Harold and Harold and those guys. I don't remember what it was, but I know Lichtel had a part in it. Me and him always were kind of like the troublemakers. And like at the World Mini back in the day, it was like kind of down in that pit, and the starting line was right where like all the manufacturers and everyone parked or whatever, was right around the start. And it was way towards, I want to say it was like after the races were over, but they had just ended, so everybody was still kind of there. And I think Josh like dared me, and Harold was like, yeah, like do it, like. So I remember I ran all the way down the start straight naked, and as I was doing it, I like looked back at Harold and he snapped a picture of it, but he blurred my face out.
Oh my God.
So nobody really knew who it was unless you were there when they ran it in the magazine, and the guy that ran the NMA, it was Patty and Ron Hendrickson were the guys, or the two, I think they were married. They ran the NMA for a really long time.
Yeah.
He was pissed, dude. I almost got disqualified, like almost had to go home. It was a big, huge deal with Suzuki. But yeah, man, I remember it was like a picture in Moto Playground, and they put like, who is this? And nobody
oh
knew,
my God. They couldn't put it together that one of the tallest dudes in the sport. Like,
I know, but back then I was only like 14, 15 years old. And like where he took the picture from, you couldn't really like see my face that well, even in the picture that he didn't blur out. I didn't have any tattoos back then.
So freaking funny. Oh my God.
Yeah,
oh my God.
It was pretty awesome.
It was good to see Moto Playground send you some love after that comment too. They were like, roots run deep, dude.
Yeah, man. Harold, it's crazy to think that he's still going. Back when I rode, he'd always pull up in the Moto Playground black motorhome. Harold is a super, super, super solid, great, awesome dude that, I have a couple covers of Moto Playground still at my mom's house that they have of me. And, yeah, man, it was that guy he's a very special human for sure.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And then one from McDade, where was it? Ask him questions about the sport at a professional level. He had some good rides and rode on satellite teams. Would love to hear the hard part, even with his contracts or with his contacts.
Yeah, for sure. I was fortunate enough to have a good. There were some years where I had some really great opportunities, and maybe at the time I didn't take it as seriously as I should have, and I kind of regret it. But like I said, I don't, because I had a lot of fun when I was doing it. But the one that primarily sticks out the most for me was the deal with Kerry. I grew up in Vegas. I was born and raised there. I lived there till I was 18 years old. I'm very close friends with Kerry and his family. I was good friends with his little brother Anthony before he passed away. His dad and my dad were super close as we were growing up. My brother and him used to race Supercross together. His dad was building tracks for my brother and Kerry when they turned pro to get ready for Supercross. And, like I said, I had the Saquon deal for like 4 or 5 years. I took it to Star. Things didn't work out there. And then I went to Hart's office one day to talk to him about something completely different than racing. There's a track in Vegas that was out like near Boulder City when I was still living out there, that got reopened. And there was I can't remember off top what their names was, but the family that was running it did a really good job at it for a really long time. A couple of the kids in the family, like I raced them here and there at like the local races in Boulder City, but they were trying to sell the property, and Kerry was trying to put on like big concerts and like FMX events and like buy the property and just do like a few events a year that would bring in a bunch of money. And he was trying to get Saquon to like help out with sponsoring it. Well, when I went to his office, I had just kind of ended my deal with Bobby Reagan, which didn't end great. And the chairman from the Indian casino had reached out to me and told me prior to this that, like, you know, he had just paid Star, like, I think 150,000 was what it was for the year. I only raced up until Southwick, then quit, kept the bike like for like 4 months, gave the bike back with all Hart Huntington graphics on it to Bobby. And Cherry was like, do you think the Saquon would be interested in sponsoring this? And I was like, how about this? You know, I was like, the chairman has told me right before I got here that he's willing to commit to giving somebody $1 million to be the title sponsor of their team. And Kerry was like, no way, you know, like didn't believe it. And that's when they had Dodge was their title sponsor that first year. And I think Dodge paid him like $2 million or something. So they couldn't be, Saquon was never able to be they were like co-title. It was like Dodge, Saquon, Hart Huntington Racing, I think is what the title of the team was that year. Well, I remember Kerry was like, I don't believe it. Like, there's no way. So I remember I called the chairman on speakerphone in his office. It was like me, him, and Watson. And I told him what I was doing, where I was at. And I was like, I want to take this deal to Kerry. You know, I was like, I trust him. I've known him my whole life. I think it'd be a really great fit for you guys. Kerry was really, 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 really good and always was really good at like activation and PR stuff with the team. That's why I think a lot of the times he got the things that he got. And we were going to do like some freestyle shows at the Saquon Casino with the team and go down and do autograph signings and stuff. So the chairman was like, if Kerry can commit to telling me that Alicia will come and do a concert, so Pink, his wife, will come and do a concert for the chairman, for the tribe and the kids in the tribe and like the tribal members, no like fans, then I'll send him $1 million check tomorrow. Gee. Like on speakerphone with Kerry, right? So Kerry was like, done.
Yeah.
Which was huge back then.
Yeah, back then $1 million title or co-title sponsor was like unheard of.
Yeah.
So I ended up riding for Kerry. That particular like off season, I was just coming back, and we started doing some testing. It was like me and Ivan, Josh, which was like, and Josh Hill. It was Hanson, Ivan, Hill, and me on the team, which was awesome because Ivan and Josh are like two of my really close friends.
Right.
I've grown up with them for a really long time. We had a really great relationship, and I ended up getting hurt at St. Louis. And the crazy part about all of it was like, I only did it because I trusted Kerry. I could have taken it to Mitch. I could have taken it to Chad Reed. I could have taken it to anyone that I wanted to because all these people were calling me and knocking on the door trying to get my sponsor. I just never, I was like, no, I'm not going to do it, you know, because as soon as I do it, you guys are going to steal it from me. So I trusted Kerry. They ended up doing a 3-year contract. It was $1 million the first year, 1.5 the second, 2 million the third year. And I worked it out in my contract where I got 10% as a finder's fee as my salary for each year as the contract.
Wow. Yeah.
So I was making really great money. You know, I was really not stressed out. I wasn't worried. I was
living the moto dream
and just focus on riding, you know? And up until that point, I was a privateer driving my vans to the races and having to like race weekend to weekend and live weekend to weekend and paycheck to paycheck. And I was able to really kind of apply myself to riding. And I had Hanson and Ivan in my corner, like helping me practice during the week. And I was getting really good on the bike. And my contract with Kerry was very, very, very like simple. Kerry was like, you just need to get better every weekend and you'll have a spot. So I went to St. Louis and the weekend before St. Louis, I think I got like 13th or something, which was pretty good for me then. I went to St. Louis, crashed in practice, ended up breaking my neck and my foot. And the thing that really stuck out the most to me about the whole situation, even after he screwed me over, was like, I looked up to Kerry not only because I had known him since I was in diapers, but I looked up to him because of what he had accomplished and where he had gotten to him in his life as far as like his career path with the tattoo company, Hart Huntington, being with Alicia, and just all of that. You know, it was for me, it was like no way this dude from Vegas. I'm like almost like I don't want to say white trash, but like tattooed white trash dude is pulling Alicia Pink, the singer, you know? I was like, this is fucking pretty tight.
Right.
So the thing that stuck out the most to me was the hospital from where I got hurt at St. Louis, the stadium was like literally like 100 yards away. And he never came and visited me one time. Never called me, never hit me up, never did anything. I think he sent me a text just saying, hey, we're thinking about you. I hope you're all right. And then I came back after I got my second neck surgery. I went to a bunch of doctors, and he called me on the phone and he was like, hey, can you come down to the office? I want to talk to you. So I was like, cool. So I went down to the office and he was like, I have some, and I remember it was like me and Watson, this guy named Mooch was there. And he was like, I got some good news and I got some bad news. And I was like, well, tell me the bad news first. You know, and he's like, I spoke with all your doctors and you're too much of a liability to ride for our team and our insurance won't cover you anymore. So we have to release you from your contract. So I was like, hold up, bro. I was like, and in my contract, it clearly states like, under no circumstance shall Kyle Partridge be removed or terminated from the team as a rider. And I was the only person that said that about. And I was like, okay, well then what's the good news? You know, and he was like, I'm going to give you 2 brand new RMZ 450s to go racing next year with. And I was like, what about my money? Like he had already paid me the 100,000 for that year, but the next year he owed me 150, and then the year after that he owed me 200.
Right, for the 10%.
For the 10% as a finder's fee. And he was like, "You're not getting it."
Wow.
So I tripped out, bro. Like it was a it was a
understandably, Kyle. Understandably.
Very, very, very heated, you know, conversation. To a point to where like I think he said something along the lines of like, you're just like your brother, a waste of talent or something. And I remember I looked at him and I think Ricky might have been there or something, because the next year they were going RCH and I was like, are you fucking kidding me, bro? Like my brother used to make you look like a fucking retard, dude. Do you remember that? Like I remember my brother laying the fucking wood on you, Ricky, and this fool's gonna try to tell me that my brother was a waste of talent. Like,
right.
So I ended up leaving. I get a phone call like a week later from his name's Pat Alexander, who was my team manager when I rode amateur Suzuki. And he still worked for Suzuki up until like 5 years ago. And he's like, hey, we have 2 bikes down here for you and the titles, come pick them up. So I went and picked them up and I literally loaded them in the back of my truck, took a picture of them, posted them on Instagram and tagged Carrie in the picture and was like, for sale, come pick up some bikes. You know, like I didn't want nothing to do with it. But as far as like the team stuff to me that really stuck out the most, it really kind of like, I don't want to say like ruined my like mojo, but like really put like a sour taste in my mouth for the dirt bike world.
Absolutely.
Would be that deal with Carrie, just because of our relationship and the amount of time that we spent together as I was growing up and just how he was so easily and carelessly about firing me. So I go to A1 and I had hired a lawyer and I served him with paperwork at A1 to take him to court. And when I handed him the paperwork, Kenny Watson was standing to the right of him and Steve Astevin was standing to the left of him, who was his agent at the time. And Steve Astevin runs the AMG. He's like Scheckler's agent, all those dudes as well. It was called like The Family or something back in the day with Button, and then they went on to their own deal. Anyways,
right.
Kerry like looked at me and he was like, what is this? And I was like, it's my contract, bro. Like, look at what it says where I highlighted it. Like, he opened it up, read it, and he was like, Kyle, he's like, your contract was black and white. It was produce or get cut loose.
Even though on the you know, the screenshot that you showed me last night said a whole different thing in black and white.
Correct. And I was like, well, what is it? And that's literally verbatim what I said to him. I was like, well, tell me where I highlighted it, what it says in black and white. And he kind of read it. And I think he didn't realize it said what it said because maybe like Astevin like looked over the contract before they signed it. And he didn't really read the whole thing. So I don't know if he actually genuinely knew that it was in there. And I was like, that's in black and white too, right? And then I was like, now go to the very last page, bro. I was like, whose signature is on the very last page in black and white ink? I was like, Carrie Hart, right? I was like, I just want my fucking money, bro. That's
Mhm.
it. I don't want to tell nobody about this. I just want my money. I was owed like almost $500,000,
Right.
you know? And I was like, just pay me my money, bro. Like, that's all I want.
Yeah. Simple,
And
pay the
then
money,
I'll
move
go away.
forward.
I'll go away. And
Mhm.
then that same weekend, Josh Hill ended up getting hurt. I think he like separated his shoulder or something in practice. And on Monday, after I served Kerry with paperwork, Kerry called me and he's like, hey, I need to ask you a huge favor.
Dude.
And I was like, what is it? He's like, I need you to fill in for Hill this weekend.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So I was like, fuck, dude. I was like, I'm going to call you right back. So I called my mom. And, you know, my whole amateur career, I was a Suzuki guy.
Yeah.
Right.
And all I ever want, like, I could have ridden a factory Suzuki 250 or 450. Like, it wasn't as big of a deal for me to ride like a factory Suzuki 125 because I was getting all that shit when I was an amateur.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, but all I wanted to ever do in my career, and I could have walked away from dirt biking the moment after it happened, was ride a factory 450.
Yeah.
So I called my mom and I was like, what do I do? She's all, do it.
Take the opportunity.
Right. So I took it and I called him back and I remember I was like, all right, I'll do it. He's like, you need to go to the Suzuki test track in an hour and get ready and start riding.
Right away. Yep.
But right away. So I went to Corona, I rode the bike the whole week. And then I remember him saying on the phone, he's like, we'll figure everything else on the back end out later. I promise. So I was like, all right, cool. So I went and raced the race. I can't remember what happened. I think I fell in the first turn or something happened to the bike in the heat race. And then I fell in the first turn in the LCQ. So I didn't even qualify. And I was going to leave the race and I was up in the semi clearing my locker out, getting all my gear. And I went to walk down from the top of the semi in the back where the front of the trailer was. And they had like all the guys from Japan there. Kerry was in there and they were just kind of like going over the weekend and stuff like that. And because that RCH team, you know, it was full blown factory Suzuki.
Yeah.
Right.
Same bike Stu was riding, exact same, everything was factory Suzuki. So I was like, all right. So I walked down in the semi and Kerry was like, KP, called me into the lounge at the semi and he like handed me an envelope and I was like, hell yeah, fool. I was like, I'm about to get paid. You know, I was like, damn, fool, I'm about to get paid my money. Let's go. I was so pumped.
Yeah.
Here it is. This is what I kind of been waiting for. And
yeah, bro. And I opened it up and it was a check for $1,000.
Dude.
Oh, man.
You know, and like I was at a birthday party for him that Alicia threw for him and she fucking bought him a helicopter, bro. A real life helicopter. So he didn't have to sit in traffic to drive to Vegas. So I know they have the money, you know what I mean? Like I've been to their house. I've seen the amount of money she makes. Like, bro, she makes like $80 million a year. So that little bit of money that they owed me was nothing. So I just felt like a complete slap in the face.
Yeah.
Of course.
Absolutely.
And I just remember I looked at Karen and I was like, you're a fucking asshole, dude. I was like, I ought to beat your fucking ass. I was like, but I can't because we got to go to court. I was like, but don't worry, bro. It's going to come back around full circle. I was like, that's the best thing about karma, Kerry. It will come back, bro. I don't care if it's now or 10 years from now.
Yep.
It's going to happen, bro. And when it does, I hope you remember what you did to me. And then I literally haven't spoken to him since.
Good.
Yeah. So
good for you, brother. Good for you.
I haven't talked to him one single time since then. I've seen him multiple times and he literally just looks straight at the ground every time I see him. He won't even like make eye contact with me.
Because he knows. And I can't even imagine that just emotion that with everything that you just as a rider, you put yourself through day in and day out. And as a rider himself, knowing that too.
And I got hurt, was in the hospital, you know, it was just a real big slap in the face, you know? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I've ridden for a lot of great teams and I've had a lot of good people in my corner, but a lot of the times that I got fired from that was my own shit, you know?
Yeah.
I can take accountability for being an idiot and fucking those things up, but this was like completely out of my control.
Yeah.
Right.
So it really affected me. Like even still today, you know, I still have a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth about it, but at the same time,
absolutely.
It's like, what am I going to do about it? Am I going to keep letting it affect me or like, I literally like all I can do now is kind of just laugh about it. You know, it's like, whatever.
Right. And it's just kind of fucked how amazing this sport is, but on the backside that just, you know, no one knows about as being a rider, the pros and a lot of the cons that come with it and how careful you have to be as a rider.
For sure, and I'm a big advocate for, like, you know, contracts don't mean shit in the dirt bike world.
Yeah.
No.
They don't mean anything. There's always a loophole for the teams, or there's always a loophole for the guy that is providing for you.
I think when it comes to the fact of like what you're saying is, it is interesting how family oriented it is in the amateurs and how much support everybody has for each other. And then when you get to the pros, it's, brother, you're taking off of my plate when I'm going to put food on the table. So it
Oh
is
yeah,
that dog eat dog world. But then when you're even having the dog eat dog world within your own team setting, where
yep,
it's like, hey, dude, we expect you to do this or you're gone. And you're like, the team wouldn't exist without funding. Right. And
yep.
it's like, it gets to this point where it's money, man. And it's
It's
brutal.
strictly business, dude. It's and it sucks to say that. Like, it's crazy to see the differences from the amateur stuff compared to Supercross and the professional level. But like, all it is for these teams is you're just another number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always somebody else waiting, bro, to take that spot.
Especially in the privateer
Yep.
world. Yeah, it is definitely hard. I mean, even today, man, a lot of things, I mean, we could get into that, but a lot of things I feel can definitely be changed to help a lot of these riders, because yeah, cool. We love seeing the factory guys and everything like that. And we've talked about it before on Bench Talk and stuff, but a lot of these privateers make this sport better for what it is, whether they're not getting out of the way, whether it on a blue flag or whatever, but all these riders are out there risking their lives. They have families, they have bills, they have a life outside of this. And you already have to, register and pay to just be able to race instead of, hey, okay, you're racing, you're getting a check. Boom.
Yeah,
it's very different.
For sure. And like the best advice I could give somebody that's a privateer is, for me, was like, I never won any big races. I never, like, accomplished some of the goals that I wish I would have, but at the same time, I was still able to make a living out of riding my dirt bike and
Yep.
and make really good money doing it, because I was smart enough to find people that would help me and give me a little bit of money here and there to get through the races. And my number one thing for me was, like, I was really good at just creating not a brand, but like creating relationships with people that they wanted to always come back and keep helping me. And my goal when I raced was, okay, let's find somebody to help me with bikes. If I'm going to be a full privateer, let's see if I can find a dealership to, like, give me a loaner bike, or give me 2 bikes for the season, and then I'll give them back at the end of the year with a bunch of parts on it that they can sell for, so it's not a huge hit. And then, I had a guy out of West Virginia that owned this company. It was called Demolition Services Incorporated. His name was Ron Feather. We called him Boots. And he would literally send me like $25,000 cash in the mail every year in a FedEx envelope. And all I had to put on my front fender was like a 2-up sticker. And then I'd have another person that would give me another 10, and then another person that would give me another 15. And then it just started adding up, and in the lights class, especially, it's hard to make a living because, I'm sure the pay structure's changed now. I'm sure they probably make right around like $750 to $1,000 for the night show. But in the 450 class, if you're making the main event every weekend, you're getting like right around $3,000 plus your contingency. And when I rode for Rocky Mountain, Honda gave me double contingency, so I was making like $6,000 a weekend every weekend. So I was able to like do really well. And then the casino was giving me like 100 to 150 a year, and paying for all my hotels because they like shared points with other people across the nation. Like, it's hard, dude. It's really, really tough to have a Supercross without the privateers. The privateers, even now, like, I love watching the LCQ more than I almost watching the main event.
Yeah.
You got those dudes that like have never made a main event, and all they want to do is break your fucking forks off your bike to get into that main event.
It's like arena cross. It's what we want to see.
Yeah, I'm watching the 33 of Norin and LCQs going, there's the boy. There he goes.
Yeah.
And Freddie's pretty good at it. He's pretty good at getting in there every weekend. And You know, I like those dudes like that. I think his name's Forrest Lane, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, like those
Forrest Lane.
dudes like that are like right on the bubble, you know, that are like, I'm gonna
Dude.
clean this. Like last weekend when Jet Reynolds took the dude out on the last lap.
That was crazy.
That is how I grew up racing Supercross.
Yeah.
You know, we were gonna break your ankles or put a hole in your motor, whatever the case may be, to
Yeah.
get in. You know, like
Yeah.
now it's kind of toned down a little bit, and you get in more trouble. But
You get
yeah,
fined
man.
$5,000. Like,
oh yeah, I've had a few of those in my days, so
oh yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
I had oh sorry, Trevor, you got.
Yo, go ahead, brother.
We got another question. Tell us something we don't know in hopes it could help someone with a younger KP, maybe someone in amateurs that is kind of moving up, maybe some advice for that rider coming up.
I would say the best advice that I would probably give an amateur coming up is to surround yourself with good people.
Mm-hmm.
That for me was something that, you know, I turned 18. I moved out of my house. I was kind of on my own, and I kind of had to figure it out alone. But if you have a good group of guys around you, like I did, that I didn't take advantage of when I was turning pro, I think I would have maybe gone a little bit better for me. But at the same time, you know, the one thing for me is like the amateur shit don't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like if you're an amateur guy and you're like a 3 through 8 guy at like Loretta's, nobody cares about that.
Yeah.
No one cares about who got third at Loretta's. I mean, look at Drew Adams. The dude went to Loretta's and won everything and didn't have a spot on Mitch's team.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's all about, and as much as I hate to say this, the dirt bike industry is all about who you know and what you know.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of guys that have rides on teams that you kind of scratch your head and look at it and you're like, okay, what are they bringing to the table?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, and I definitely would just say for an amateur kid, and the number one thing, most important thing is to have fun. Make sure you're still having fun doing it. You know, like there was a point in my career where I just got burnt out, you know, and I was like, fuck, I'm just so over like the grind, and I'm so over like the work and all the effort that I got to put into just getting to the race before I get there, and calling the AMA and doing my own entries. And like, it's hard, you know, it's really tough. It's, as long as you have a good group of people in your life, or even just a good support system, somebody that's willing to like stand by you, and you keep riding and you keep improving. I think that's the one thing that a lot of guys kind of get deterred with in the dirt bike world is like, you know, I've had multiple people that I raced my whole life that like never did anything as an amateur, and then when I turned pro, smoked me.
Mm-hmm.
Because they put themselves in good positions with good people and were training and riding with good guys, and blew my doors off, you know, and it was super hard for me to understand how I was getting beat by somebody that I beat my whole life as an amateur.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So after I stepped away from it, you know, it's very important to make sure you're surrounded with a really good, you know, even if it's just your family. Like that's the one thing that I think is super important with like Deegan, you know, like
right,
you don't really see many kids that are in his position that their whole family is like behind it, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
They're like literally like I don't see like Hymus's dad and mom, or Cole Davies' mom or dad or sisters or brothers, or like the things that I watch with Deegan. Or it's super important, man, to like make sure you have a good crew around you, because this world in dirt bikes is very black and white and cutthroat, and nobody really cares about you at the end of the day. All they care about is you selling motorcycles for them or making their team look great. And at the end of the day, if you're not doing that, you're going to get replaced by the next dude in line.
Right. And I think that also echoes what you've said this whole podcast, which is success only comes before work in the dictionary, right? Yeah. Surrounding yourself with good people and putting that work in.
Yeah, it's
that.
hard. It's hard, man. And it's you know, I've watched my son play a lot of other sports other than ride dirt bikes, and I can for sure say that like dirt bikes, in my mind, before I had my son, you know, I didn't really feel like it was that hard. Mm-hmm. But now that I look back at it, it's like probably one of the toughest sports in the whole entire world. You know, it's like
absolutely
without a doubt.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. So, speaking about all that we've talked about, Kyle, we've got, us having you on here has been such a treat. I want to personally just thank you from my side of it. I used to watch you, tall rider, blasting out in these amateur videos, getting the whole shot, smooth riding. You set up, yeah, man, I want to be fast, but if I don't look good doing it, it meant nothing. And so watching you be one of the smoothest riders to put his leg over a bike, I just want to tell you, um, watching you from the amateur scene going into the pros and literally paying for a life racing your dirt bike. Brother, you lived the dream that some of us never achieve, and you did it while always being yourself. You never accepted people walking on you. You simply were you. And I
Yeah.
just want to say from the bottom of my heart, brother, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I think Tyler's got probably some more questions, but I just want to say, as a hero of mine growing up, you are still a hero of mine as a grown man.
Absolutely, bro.
And I'm very, very
yeah.
proud of you and all you've done. You've transitioned from the moto, and now you're slowly becoming a dad involved with moto with your son. Talk to us. How's it feeling transitioning, and anything else Tyler has?
Man, I definitely I wouldn't say slowly transitioning, because I always knew this was going to happen. I've definitely kind of like tried to keep it from happening almost, and I've always been in Landon's life ever since ever since he was born, and it's definitely for me now. It's at a point now for me where like the odds of my son ever going and being a Supercross champion or being somebody that's going to make a living out of it are pretty slim, and I'm fully aware of that. Like I said, I'm pretty good about being a realist, but I also want to make sure that if my son, I remember when he got the bike on Christmas this year, and I asked him, I was like, all right, because like his number one thing for a long time was like, I want to ride Pro BMX.
Yeah.
That's it. I just want to ride Pro BMX. And he rides his bicycle still today, like every single day he's pedaling.
Yeah.
So I remember I asked him, I was like, all right, dude, I was like, now that you got a dirt bike, I was like, are you just trying to ride to like be like a weekend warrior or what? He's like, no, I want to start racing.
Really?
Yeah. Right. So I'm like, all right, cool. I was like, but if you're going to go to the track and stuff, I want to be a part of it. I want you to understand that, like, if you're at the track, and let's just say typically the slow line when you're not jumping a jump is on the right side, but that particular jump, the fast line, is on the right side. You need to be on the left so you don't get landed on and get killed. I want to make sure I'm there to tell you that, like,
yeah,
right.
And I've had a couple companies reach out to me, and like Breyer from 180 Decals, with Cherbis, and some guys have like really hooked him up. Kenny Watson's like getting him all dialed in with stuff for his bike, and
that's awesome.
It's been pretty cool, like to have that side of it come to fruition for him. And, for me, my number one goal is for my son to be better than I ever have been, or better man, or better kid, or better than I ever was, just because I think any parent wants their kid to be better than them any day, and,
absolutely.
And, right. And my biggest pride and my biggest accomplishment in my life, aside even with the dirt bikes and anything that I've ever accomplished in my life, is being a dad. It's my number one priority in life, and it's the one thing that I've always stood strong on, regardless to who has been in my life. And I've had to ixnay a lot of people from my life, because my son is in my life, and that is just the end of it, and it's definitely been cool. But the part with him riding a dirt bike is he's kind of weird. Like I said, it's almost like he doesn't want me to go to the track with him, because he's afraid that I'm going to be like, dude, you need to do this, and this. But when I talk to him, I'm like, bro, I just want to come out and make sure you're safe. Like,
yeah,
I don't expect you to pull up to the track and start busting shit out on the first lap.
Right. Yeah.
Because I've seen a video, and so he went to the track the first time with his stepdad, and I'm so grateful and thankful for his stepdad, Joe. He's a great, amazing, awesome dude. He's so good to my son. And one thing that I know, having a kid and dating even girls that have had kids in my life, like it's hard to treat someone else's kid like their own that isn't theirs. And he's done that his whole life since Landon's been 3. So I'm super grateful for that. But like so he went to Paris like the first time. I think like he's only been to the track twice. And he went to Paris for the first time like 2 weeks ago, and he sends me a video. And I was with my brother. We were at like A2, I think. We went to A2, my brother Jason and my girlfriend and his girlfriend, or his wife, my bad. And we're like watching the video, and my brother Jason's all, damn, dude, he's not that bad. Like he's actually pretty good. And I like called him. I'm like, yo, I call Landon. So ever since Landon was little, he's always slicked his hair back. So I call him Fonzie. Right. So I'm like, yo. I was like, dude, you look pretty good, fool. I was like, I thought you were going to be a little bit more goony than you actually were. I was like, good job, bro.
Runs in the genes.
Like, yeah. I was like, good job, dude. So yeah, man, I'm super excited to see his progression with the dirt bike stuff. I know it's going to be super fast because he's got some pretty sick skills on the BMX bike. He's super smooth and real steezy and like moves around really good on the bike. And I told him, I'm like, dude, you just need to ride, just like on your bicycle. Just ride your dirt bike, and it's gonna come. It's gonna happen. Like, I don't even need to go to the track with you, because I can help you with stuff, but like you're just gonna progress so quick. So I'm super, super, super interested to see like in a year from now where he is with the dirt bike stuff, and it'll be cool to see if he's at a point to where like I think we can go and start hitting some of the like amateur stuff. Like I'll for sure be the dad at the races, like hanging out behind the starting line.
Which would be sick. I'll probably see you at a bunch of those, which would be awesome to talk to you in person and see that, and maybe I'll film them for you a couple times. I think that would be sick. And just like before we just wrap everything up, what is the next step for you besides getting a little more with Landon with the BMX and getting into the moto scene now? What is your next step?
So my next goal right now is I'm just trying to get a bike so that I can start riding with him. You know, I definitely want to get out on the track. I haven't ridden a dirt bike for like 7 years. It's been a long time, man. I bought like a KTM factory edition, like I think like 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I rode it maybe like 5 or 6 times. I sold it, had 8 hours on it, and I just haven't ridden since. So like right now my goal is, luckily for me, I have an amazing girlfriend in my life that's super, super, super successful. She works her butt off. She's an amazing hairstylist. She does really great out here in Orange County. She's like one of the top hairstylists out here, so she crushes it. So right now we're trying to come up with a little plan to like, when I went to rehab, I lost everything. Mm-hmm. Everything that I had, I lost. The only thing that I own still is my Harley. So like I have no truck, I have no bike, I have like a set of knee braces, a helmet, and some old gear. So like my number one thing right now, as I've been saving money, is to like just get a nice little truck, get a bike, get back in the mix on the track with Landon, go out, have some fun with my son, even if it's just local riding. Like, I would love, me and my coworker, his name's Kyle Fry, and he's like, we're pretty close with Surratt, and Surrey's always over at the house hanging out with us on the weekends when he's not racing. And
I haven't heard that name in a minute. Surratt.
Dude, Surrey is bad as fuck, dude. He's factory Honda, bro. Out off road, he's bad, dude.
Killing
he's really good on. He's sick. So we were talking the other day, and I was like, K-Fry, I was like, how sick would it be, dude? Like do a vet tour, like go to all the amateur nationals in the vet class, and just go race, bro, and have fun. Like just us in a van. Sick. So that's kind of my goal right now. He has a 252 stroke. He races like. K-Fry races like the NGPC series, mm-hmm. which is like the off-road stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He just did the one up there. I think it's in I don't know, somewhere in like Central California. He did that one just like a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago. But I was like, dude, let's go race Loretta's. Let's go race Ponca. Like the only thing that sucks for me is there's no plus 35 at Loretta's, and I can't ride plus 30 because I rode a Supercross.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So Loretta's, if you made a main event or outdoor, you can't ride the plus 30 class. So if I go to Loretta's, I got to ride the plus 25 class, and I'm going to get smoked. because there's a bunch of kids in that class, dude, that are sick. You know what I'm saying?
Dude,
Like, it's gonna be bad. Like
the bikes nowadays are just, and kids now, just from the progression of this sport is insane.
yeah,
Is insane.
it's yeah, it's just like everything else, you know. Like 10 years ago, it was nothing. Like it is now, you know. When I stopped racing 10 years ago, you're like, holy crap! Like the bikes, the guys, the things that they're doing on the bikes. Like when I raced, we were not going through ruts with our feet on the pegs like Lawrence's and all these guys are doing. You know what I'm saying? Standing up around the turn. You know, it's just different. It has progressed so much, and I think a lot of things that I could even teach Landon now wouldn't even apply to the modern day stuff because it's just so much different. You know?
Right.
So yeah, man, I'm excited to see what happens next. And you know, other than that, dude, I'm enjoying being 38 years old and
hell yeah,
being happy and healthy and going to work every day and being just a normal human being. It's kind of crazy. Like I always tell my chick, and my chick knows nothing about dirt bikes. Nothing, like absolutely nothing. We go to the Supercross and she's like, "Who's in first place?"
What is
all
this?
All she knows is I want Jet Lawrence to win because he's hot. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, all right, whatever, you know? So like we went to the Supercross this last weekend and we walk up to the stadium and she's like, I'm with my brother Jason, obviously, and his wife. And she like, as we're walking up to the stadium, she's all, "You think anybody's gonna recognize you?" And my brother like turns around and looks at her and he's like, "Are you kidding me?" and like literally within like the first 3 minutes that we walked through the stadium, someone was like, "Yo, KP," you know. I was like, "Yo,"
hell yeah,
it was like,
yeah.
It was pretty cool. So it's definitely, I definitely miss it. And I'm hopefully looking to get back into it. And yeah, man, that's definitely the next step for me as far as like my personal life goes and my career goes. Like, you know, I'm super thankful for Nick Valdez for giving me the job that I have now. And, you know, it's definitely a lot harder to get a job when all you've done is race dirt bikes your whole life and you have no work experience doing anything else whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm super grateful for him. And, you know, I'm very content where I'm at. And, yeah, man, one foot in front of the other.
Dude, that is awesome. I can't wait to see just that progression of where, you know, you and Landon go, and looking forward to seeing you guys at the track. But before we wrap up right now, is there anything you want to just say to the fans after all these years, and people that have just, you know, loved your career, loved you as a person, and supported you along the way?
Yeah, man, I definitely, you know, I definitely want everyone to know that who has supported me and has been there for me and has helped me when I didn't think anybody would. Like it's never something that will ever be forgotten for as long as I live in my life. It's something that I hold very close to my heart. And, you know, as crazy and as cutthroat and black and white as the dirt bike industry is, it also has a very good side to it on the flip side, you know. And I'm so grateful and thankful for all of it and everybody that stood behind me. And it means more to me than anybody could ever imagine. And hopefully I'll be able to see some of you guys back out at the races soon.
Hell yeah. And if you guys aren't already, be sure to follow Kyle Partridge and keep up. I definitely will be looking forward to seeing everything, like I said, and having you definitely back on to just catch up, talk moto again. It would be super sick. But yeah, go follow Kyle. Be sure you guys are following, leave a like, a comment. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to ask in the comments. And Kyle, dude, thank you. It is honestly, dude, just such a rad day. I've been looking forward to this, and just an honor to have you talk with us and out of your time and stuff. Like, thank you so much. Baddest dude in the industry, I think. And dude, just keep doing your thing, dude. You're doing good, and you're never too old or too young to figure out life and change and go after those goals. So, dude, like, just keep doing it, man.
Heck yeah.
Just keep fucking doing it.
Thank you,
bro.
guys.
All right, brother.
Thank you, boys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.